10 toughest actors in Hollywood history, here goes my vote. When the cameras aren't rolling, who are Hollywood's real tough guys? Some actors don't just play heroes on screen. They've fought in wars, survived impossible odds, and lived lives more intense than any movie script. From fearless soldiers who stormed enemy lines to men who defied death and broke barriers, these legends proved their toughness in ways that will leave you speechless. Who were they, and what incredible real-life battles did they face? Stick around as we reveal Hollywood's toughest actors of all time. Peter Julian Ortiz. Peter Julian Ortiz lived a life that no Hollywood script could match. Born on July 5, 1913, in New York City, he was the son of a French-born Spanish father and an American mother of Swiss descent. Educated at the University of Grenoble in France, he became fluent in 10 languages, including English, Spanish, French, Italian, German, and Arabic, a rare skill set that later made him invaluable in military intelligence. At just 19 years old, Ortiz enlisted in the French Foreign Legion, serving for 5 years in North Africa. His fearlessness in combat earned him prestigious honors, including the Croix de Guerre and the Médaille Militaire. After completing his service, he returned to the United States, but the outbreak of World War II pulled him back into battle. He re-enlisted in the French Foreign Legion and fought in the Battle of France, where he was wounded and captured by the Germans. Refusing to remain a prisoner, he escaped and made his way back to the U.S., where he soon joined the United States Marine Corps. Recognized for his combat experience and linguistic abilities, he quickly rose to the rank of second lieutenant. Ortiz's exceptional skills caught the attention of the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, the predecessor of the CIA. As an elite operative, he parachuted behind enemy lines into Nazi-occupied France, working with the French resistance to conduct sabotage missions and rescue Allied pilots. His bravery and leadership earned him some of the highest military honors, including the Navy Cross, the Legion of Merit, and awards from France and Britain, such as the Order of the British Empire. After the war, Ortiz sought to return to combat in Indochina, but military policies prevented him from serving. Instead, he turned to Hollywood, using his real-world experience to advise war films and even appear in a handful of movies. His film credits include 13 Rue Madeline, 1947, The Expendables, 1960, and Operation Secret, 1952, often playing military roles that reflected his real-life heroism. Despite his Hollywood career, Ortiz never pursued fame. His true legacy was forged on the battlefield, not on the silver screen. By the time he retired as a colonel, he had earned 24 military decorations from 3 different countries, a testament to his extraordinary service, intelligence, and courage. Peter Julian Ortiz passed away on May 16, 1988, at the age of 74. Though his name is not as widely recognized as Hollywood's biggest stars, those who know his story understand that he was one of the toughest, most decorated actors in film history, not because he played a hero, but because he was one in real life. Sterling Hayden. Sterling Hayden was never meant to be just a Hollywood star. He was a sailor, a war hero, and an adventurer at heart. Born on March 26, 1916, in Montclair, New Jersey, Hayden's early years were defined by his love for the sea. As a teenager, he dropped out of school to work on schooners, eventually earning his captain's license by the age of 22. His towering 6 feet 5 inches frame and rugged good looks caught Hollywood's attention, but he never saw himself as an actor. Despite landing roles in films, his true calling came when World War II broke out. In 1941, he joined the U.S. Army Air Corps, but was soon discharged due to a training injury. Determined to fight, he enlisted in the Marines under a false name, rising quickly through the ranks. Recognized for his intelligence and resilience, he was recruited into the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, the precursor to the CIA. As an undercover operative, Hayden parachuted into Nazi-occupied Yugoslavia and Italy, smuggling weapons and supplies to Tito's partisans. He undertook high-risk missions behind enemy lines, including the daring rescue of 20 downed Allied airmen. His extraordinary courage earned him the Silver Star, one of the U.S. military's highest honors. After the war, Hayden reluctantly returned to Hollywood, appearing in films like The Asphalt Jungle, 1950, Johnny Guitar, 1954, and Dr. Strangelove, 1964. Though he gained fame, he despised acting, famously declaring, "I'm no actor, I'm a sailor." He used his earnings to fund his sailing adventures, crossing the seas whenever possible. Sterling Hayden passed away on May 23, 1986, at the age of 70. Though remembered as a legendary screen presence, his true legacy is that of a fearless warrior, an adventurer, and a man who always sought freedom beyond the confines of Hollywood. William Smith. William Smith was not just another action star. He was a real-life powerhouse, known for his physical strength, intelligence, and military service. Born on March 24, 1933, in Columbia, Missouri, he grew up on a cattle ranch before entering Hollywood at an early age. However, his career extended far beyond acting. He was a champion athlete, a military man, and a scholar fluent in multiple languages. Smith's physical achievements were legendary. He held a world record for reverse curling his own body weight, 163 pounds, won 2 World Arm Wrestling Championships, and was a skilled downhill skier and motocross racer. He boxed as an amateur, winning 31 out of 32 fights, and dominated weightlifting competitions, earning the Air Force Light Heavyweight Championship. His physical abilities weren't just for show. His bare-knuckle fight scene with Clint Eastwood, in Any Which Way You Can 1980, remains one of the most iconic and realistic fights in film history. Beyond his athleticism, Smith was a highly educated and disciplined man. He earned a master's degree in Russian studies from UCLA, and was fluent in Russian, French, German, and Serbo-Croatian. This skill set made him valuable to the U.S. military, and during the Korean War, he served as a Russian intercept interrogator, conducting classified missions that required both physical toughness and sharp intelligence. In Hollywood, Smith became a recognizable figure, often playing tough, villainous roles in films and TV shows such as Hawaii Five-0, Rich Man, Poor Man, and Conan the Barbarian 1982. His imposing presence, combined with his real-life fighting skills, made him one of the most authentic tough guys in film history. William Smith passed away on July 5, 2021, at the age of 88. His legacy lives on as one of Hollywood's strongest, smartest, and most versatile action stars, proving that his toughness wasn't just an act, it was real. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas was more than a Hollywood legend. He was a man who fought his way to the top through sheer determination and resilience. Born Isser Danielovich on December 9, 1916, in Amsterdam, New York, he was the son of Russian Jewish immigrants who struggled in extreme poverty. His childhood was marked by anti-Semitic discrimination and an abusive father, which fueled his relentless drive to succeed. From a young age, Douglas was a fighter, literally. He took up boxing, developing a tough, unyielding spirit that stayed with him for life. He worked his way through St. Lawrence University, and later earned a scholarship to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, where he studied alongside Lauren Bacall. When World War II broke out, Douglas enlisted in the U.S. Navy, serving as a communications officer on a submarine chaser in the Pacific Theater. His military career was cut short when a premature depth charge injured his abdomen, leading to his medical discharge in 1944. Undeterred, he pursued acting with military discipline, breaking into Hollywood with The Strange Love of Martha Ivers, 1946. He became one of Hollywood's most versatile leading men, starring in classics like Champion, 1949, Paths of Glory, 1957, and Spartacus, 1960. As a producer, Douglas fought against Hollywood's blacklist, hiring blacklisted screenwriter Dalton Trumbo under his real name, an act that helped end an era of political persecution in Hollywood. Douglas survived a helicopter crash at 74 and a severe stroke at 79, proving his indomitable spirit time and again. He passed away on February 5, 2020, at 103 years old, leaving behind a legacy of strength, defiance, and cinematic greatness. James Doohan. James Doohan was known to the world as Montgomery Scotty Scott from Star Trek. But before he became a beloved TV icon, he was a battle-hardened soldier, who survived one of the deadliest battles of World War II. Born on March 3, 1920, in Vancouver, Canada, Douin's early life was filled with ambition and discipline. In 1939, when war erupted, he enlisted in the Royal Canadian Artillery and was soon commissioned as a lieutenant. His most defining moment came on June 6, 1944, when he stormed Juno Beach with the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division. During the chaotic battle, Douin took out a German sniper's nest, but later that night tragedy struck. A nervous Canadian sentry accidentally shot him 6 times. 4 bullets hit his leg, 1 struck his chest, and 1 destroyed his right middle finger. Miraculously, the bullet to his chest was stopped by a silver cigarette case, likely saving his life. After the war, Douin trained as an actor, perfecting over 8 distinct accents, a skill that led him to land his most famous role as Scotty on Star Trek, 1966. His portrayal of the tough but brilliant chief engineer made him an instant fan favorite. Unknown to many, Douin was also a real-life technical genius, assisting in the development of the Klingon and Vulcan languages for the franchise. Despite his injuries, Douin remained active and inspired generations of scientists and engineers. He passed away on July 20, 2005, at the age of 85, leaving behind the legacy of a true hero, both in war and in science fiction. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson wasn't just a tough guy on screen. His real-life hardships and military service shaped him into one of Hollywood's most authentic action stars. Born Charles Dennis Buczynski on November 3, 1921, in Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania, he was one of 15 children in a poor Lithuanian immigrant family. Growing up in a coal mining town, Bronson worked in the mines as a teenager, enduring brutal conditions for $1 per ton of coal, just to help support his family. His toughness wasn't just physical, it was survival. During World War II, Bronson enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces, becoming a B-29 Superfortress aerial gunner. He flew 25 combat missions over Japan, surviving the deadly Battle of the Pacific. For his service, he was awarded the Purple Heart after being wounded in battle. After the war, Bronson turned to acting, eventually starring in films that showcased his gritty, silent strength. His breakout role came in The Magnificent Seven, 1960, followed by The Great Escape, 1963, where he played a claustrophobic tumbler, a role that mirrored his own experience working in the suffocating coal mines. His reputation as the ultimate tough guy solidified with Death Wish, 1974, where he played a relentless vigilante taking justice into his own hands. Unlike many action stars, Bronson's performances felt genuine, rooted in the struggles of a man who had endured real hardship in war. Off-screen, Bronson was known for his reserved, almost reclusive nature. He avoided Hollywood's glitz, preferring privacy over fame. He passed away on August 30, 2003, at the age of 81, leaving behind a legacy as one of Hollywood's most rugged and believable action icons. James Stewart. James Stewart was not just one of the most beloved actors in American cinema. He was also a highly decorated war hero who risked his life for his country. Born May 20, 1908, in Indiana, Pennsylvania, Stewart grew up in a patriotic household. He studied at Princeton University, but his love for flying led him to become a licensed private pilot before World War II even began. When war broke out, Stewart didn't wait for Hollywood to draft him into war films. He enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Corps in 1941, despite already being a major movie star. Initially assigned to training roles, Stewart fought to get into combat, eventually becoming a B-24 Liberator pilot. By 1943, he was leading dangerous bombing raids over Nazi-occupied Europe as part of the 445th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force. He flew 20 combat missions, including attacks on Berlin and other heavily defended targets. Rising to the rank of colonel, Stewart received multiple commendations, including the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal. After the war, Stewart remained in the U.S. Air Force Reserve, eventually being promoted to Brigadier General, making him the highest-ranking Hollywood actor in military history. Unlike many stars, he rarely spoke about his wartime experiences, though his post-war performances in films like It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, reflected a new depth of emotion shaped by his real-life battles. Stewart's acting career spanned decades, with classics like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939, Vertigo, 1958, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, 1962. He remained humble, patriotic, and dedicated to service, even volunteering for a mission in Vietnam at the age of 60. James Stewart passed away on July 2, 1997, at 89 years old. His legacy is twofold: one of Hollywood's greatest actors, and one of America's bravest wartime pilots. Sessho Hayakawa. Sessho Hayakawa was a Hollywood trailblazer who defied racial barriers, fought against discrimination, and embodied toughness both on and off the screen. Born Kentaro Hayakawa on June 10, 1889, in Chiba, Japan, he came from a noble samurai family and was destined for a military career. However, after a diving accident ruptured his eardrums, his dreams of becoming an officer in the Imperial Japanese Navy were shattered. Overcome with shame, he attempted seppuku, ritual suicide, but his father intervened. Seeking a fresh start, he traveled to the United States, where fate led him to Hollywood. In the early 1910s, Hayakawa broke into silent films and became an overnight sensation. His brooding, aristocratic presence and dangerous charm captivated audiences, particularly women, making him one of the first international heartthrobs. However, his success was met with backlash. Hollywood's white male elite feared his popularity and deliberately created stereotypes to diminish his status. Despite this, he became one of the highest-paid actors of the 1910s and 1920s, earning a staggering $3,500 per week, an unheard-of sum at the time. Unlike the passive Asian roles Hollywood later pushed, Hayakawa refused to play submissive or comic relief characters. Instead, he portrayed tough, sophisticated, and often dangerous men, challenging Western stereotypes about Asian masculinity. His silent film career flourished, but as Hollywood moved into the talking era, anti-Asian sentiment limited his opportunities. Rather than accept defeat, Hayakawa left Hollywood and became a resistance fighter during World War II, aiding the French underground against the Nazis. After the war, he returned to acting, earning an Academy Award nomination for his role in The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957. Sessho Hayakawa passed away on November 23, 1973, at 84 years old, but his legacy remains. He proved that Asian actors could be leading men, tough, and charismatic, long before Hollywood was ready to accept it. Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee was not only one of cinema's greatest villains, but he was also a real-life war hero, intelligence officer, and master swordsman. Born May 27, 1922, in London, England, he came from an aristocratic family with deep military roots. His father was a World War I veteran, and Lee followed in his footsteps, enlisting in the Royal Air Force during World War II. Initially training as a fighter pilot, Lee was reassigned due to a medical condition and instead joined RAF intelligence. His skills and intellect led him to work with the Special Operations Executive, SOE, and later Popsky's Private Army, two of the most elite British wartime units. These groups conducted top-secret sabotage missions and hunted Nazi war criminals. Lee rarely spoke about his war experiences, once cryptically stating, "I was forbidden from talking about it." After the war, Lee struggled to break into acting due to his imposing height, 6 feet 5 inches, but he soon found his niche in horror films. He became famous for playing Count Dracula in Hammer horror films, bringing an unmatched intensity to the role. His deep voice, commanding presence, and mastery of swordplay made him one of the most formidable villains in cinema history. His career spanned over 6 decades, with unforgettable roles as Saruman in The Lord of the Rings, Count Dooku in Star Wars, and Francisco Scaramanga in The Man with the Golden Gun. Fluent in 8 languages, Lee was also a classically trained opera singer, and even released heavy metal albums in his 80s. Christopher Lee passed away on June 7, 2015, at 93 years old, leaving behind a legacy unmatched in film and military history. Whether on the battlefield or the silver screen, He was the embodiment of power, intellect, and fearless determination. Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy wasn't just an action star. He was a genuine American war hero, the most decorated U.S. soldier of World War II, and a natural-born fighter who turned his battlefield experience into a successful Hollywood career. Born June 20, 1925 in Kingston, Texas, Murphy grew up in severe poverty, one of 12 children in a sharecropping family. His father abandoned them when he was young, forcing Murphy to drop out of school in the 5th grade to support his family by hunting rabbits.
Sir, I asked for a combat
skill that would later make him a deadly marksman in war. When World War II broke out, Murphy tried to enlist at 16 years old, but was rejected for being underweight. When he turned 17, he finally got accepted into the U.S. Army after lying about his age. Despite his small stature, 5 feet 5 inches and 112 pounds, he quickly proved himself as a fearless soldier, earning respect through exceptional bravery and sharpshooting skills. His defining moment came on January 26, 1945, during the Battle of the Colmar Pocket in France. When his unit was overwhelmed by German forces, Murphy single-handedly held off an entire company of Nazi soldiers for over an hour, using a burning tank destroyer's .50 caliber machine gun. Despite being wounded, he led a counterattack, driving the Germans back and saving his men. For this incredible act of courage, he was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest U.S. military decoration. By the war's end, Murphy had received 33 military awards, including the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and the Legion of Merit, making him the most decorated U.S. soldier of the war. After returning home, Murphy struggled with severe PTSD, suffering from nightmares, insomnia, and bouts of rage, a condition he openly spoke about when few others did. To cope, he turned to acting, making his film debut in Beyond Glory, 1948. His best-known film, To Hell and Back, 1955, was an adaptation of his autobiography, where he played himself in a gritty, realistic depiction of war. Unlike many Hollywood tough guys, Murphy didn't need to pretend. He lived through the horrors of combat firsthand. Beyond war films, he starred in over 40 movies, mostly westerns, cementing his place as a bankable action star. However, Murphy's demons never left him, and despite his fame, he struggled financially in later years. On May 28, 1971, he tragically died in a plane crash at just 45 years old. Audie Murphy's legacy is that of a true warrior, both on the battlefield and on the screen. His courage, humility, and resilience made him not just one of Hollywood's toughest actors, but one of America's greatest heroes. These 10 actors weren't just tough on screen. They lived extraordinary lives filled with real danger, resilience, and heroism. From war heroes who fought on the front lines to men who pushed their physical and mental limits, each of them proved that toughness isn't just about playing a role. It's about who you are when the cameras aren't rolling. Which of these Hollywood legends impressed you the most? Do you know of any other actors with incredible real-life stories? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts. Your support helps us bring you more fascinating Hollywood stories. And if you haven't already, subscribe to All About Hollywood for more deep dives into the legends, scandals, and untold stories of Tinseltown. See you in the next video.